Welcome back to the Maven Show. This is your host Rohit. Today we have Shannon, the president at Cloud Adoption Solutions, speaker and author. Thank you, Shannon, for getting into the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you in too, So we will be talking about a bunch of stuff into the sales since you already been into the sales for many years now. And you would love to share your experience into the sales, the operations, the sales process and technologies. So would you just like to give a brief intro of yours first and your organization you are into?
I would love to. Thank you so much. I'm the president of Cloud Adoption Solutions, which is a Salesforce.com consultancy. So we work with organizations that use sales and marketing technology to optimize their experience so it works really, really well for their users. I did my PhD dissertation on user adoption of CRM systems. So we always think about the people in that people process technology triangle. I also am a professor at a local university called Point Park, where I teach about sales and marketing technology.
And how did you start the cloud adoption solutions?
I was working in sales operations. So I was leading sales operations centers of excellence in the life sciences industry, which is very heavy in mergers and acquisitions. So I got very familiar with acquiring companies, going in, acquiring their Salesforce instances, their sales process, and harmonizing that so that the team could get to work quickly as we were acquiring them into our organization. And Salesforce got wind of it and said, hey, we would love for you to come speak about the process that you undertook to do that sort of thing. And once I did it a few times, I thought there's a business idea in here.
What do you think, how sales and marketing together for go-to-market strategy for BDM? How is it?
Yeah, so sales and marketing should work together for a go-to-market strategy. It's one of those things where people in sales feel like sales is so important and people in marketing think marketing is so important. And they're really just two sides of a stool, right? So they have to say, we're united in our process. These are our goals. So if our go-to-market strategy is to increase sales by 26%, sales and marketing really need to work together on that sort of thing.
What's the best advice you can have for someone who is going to close the high ticket sales or the sales which are high ticket, like 10K plus or 50K plus? What's the best thing you would advise to them?
So if somebody's looking for, large sales, if somebody's looking to find large sales, it's all about process, right? Sales is a process. And a lot of people who are in sales will tell you sales is an art. Sales is something that is in their gut. But the reality is people that use that process approach are the ones who are always going to win. Those are the ones that will always win.
And it's not a one-nighted, it's the long term for sure. And it takes time to fill up the pipeline, and to strengthen the pipeline. Yeah,
you're exactly right. And I think one of the things that early stage sellers do is they forget about that pipeline. So they'll take their opportunities, get them all the way down to the end and try to close them out and forget you have to keep watering the top of that pipeline as well.
How would you like to speak about the innovation in sales and marketing technology right now?
So what's incredible is really martech, marketing technology, has been the leading edge of innovation for a really long time. So the martech landscape is much deeper, much thicker than the sales tech landscape, but the sales tech landscape is starting to catch up now. So we're seeing things being innovated, document automation, proposal generation, things that are really helping sellers, beyond the initial sort of automated dialers, which I think we're like, okay, that's cool. So what's exciting is watching the sales tech landscape catch up to martech and also start to think really seriously about integration.
Got it. And what do you think, what do you say about getting users to adopt technology?
Yeah, so one of the things a lot of people forget when they buy technology, they say, this is the silver bullet. This is the technology my company needs. A lot of times they forget about that user. So you have to think about your user base. Do you have 4 generations in the workplace? So do you have a 21-year-old seller and a 58-year-old seller? Because their approach is going to be totally different. So if you launch a new piece of technology, you have to consider their learning styles to say, how does somebody who was born with technology in their hand adopt technology differently than somebody who, learned about television when it was black and white?
What do you think, adoption of technology is changing over the period of time? how it is changing, it is obviously changing, but how it is evolving and changing so far.
I love that you asked this question because there's this huge approach right now to human-centered design where people are saying, I want to think about the humans who are using this technology at the end, where I feel like 10 years ago, it was about how do I build beautiful technology that's going to impress people. And so now I think technologists are thinking a little bit more about this person at the end who's really going to be making the clicks to say, now I'm using this. So I think that is a new trend that is very welcomed.
And it's obviously like has changed so much from last 10-20 years, from 90s to its 20th century at this time, and it's obviously evolved a lot.
It's evolved a lot. And, you think, 10, 15 years ago, a lot of software was on premise, right? So if you wanted to make changes to the software, you had to get, somebody to come to your office and make the changes right there on your server. And now, because most of the things we're using are in the cloud, people can make those changes from anywhere. And so when I started selling, I had to insert and remove tapes every single day to say, here was my activity from the day. And now that we are cloud-based, we're so much more agile, and it's so much easier to say, I'm going to make this technology match your process.
Got it. And like sales technology is a bit costly for startups, probably. Sometimes we can say that first thing. Small businesses even can't sometimes afford that. It's good for mid-size and enterprises, for guys who already have big pockets. But who is getting into, like, who just want to get in? What do you think, like, how they can get started with the best flow for the sales with the less cost, so they can save, invest the right way possible, that's the thing.
That is a beautiful and sensitive question. So a lot of times small businesses do say, I can't afford this large cost of technology. So what I would encourage them to do is begin with the end in mind. So if you're going to be using HubSpot or Salesforce, look at the way they're structured and then go back to your Google Sheets, which is a perfectly acceptable place to start, and make sure you're applying that same process, right? So however you think you're going to be tracking your sales, apply that process to your Google or Excel spreadsheet to say, if this is where we're tracking, we want the process to be the same. Or if you're using spin selling or Miller Hyman, whatever your sales approach is, embed that in the way that you're using. A lot of people use Google Sheets, and I think that's a perfectly fine place to start.
And Google is pretty much free to get started, obviously, until it's not Google's workspace.
Of course.
And what do you think, like, how to be best at sales using the sales technology,
Yes. So many people think, okay, these sales technologies, they're going to give me everything I need. And they can, right? They can add more minutes into your selling day. And anytime you can find more minutes in your selling day is a great time. But you have to think about that process approach. So constantly be looking as if you were running a lean manufacturing organization to say, how do we make sure we don't have any waste and we're not wasting time and we don't have extra steps? So if your seller has to get an approval, put that into your technology instead of making them send an email, call somebody, run down the cubicle aisle to find somebody to approve on that. So anything you can do to remove the friction for your sellers is a good thing.
Got it. And what do you think, like, any best advices, tips, like just to closing for the sales, or anyone who's getting into sales, or 5 years old experienced guy, or 10 years old, 25 years plus, so what do you think, like, could be the best way to get the things done?
Sales is a life skill. I think everybody should try sales. I think sales is something a lot of us start doing. Little kids are really good at it. They'll eat a cookie and say, can I have another cookie, right? So they're already trying to sell you.
And
So
even though, like, I have a very, like, beautiful insight at this time. When I was like kid, I was in my family business at the age of 12, 11. So till 12, 11, 15, till 15, 16, I was there. So I have a younger brother as well. So he always used to sell those kites. Do you know the kites, which those kites for probably 30 cents or 40 cents. And I used to sell the same kites for 1 USD or so just doubling the price, and people love to buy most of the times, And he always used to ask how you guys to do, how you guys do, man, that matters.
Yeah, it definitely does. I think, being able to say, hey, I have something that's of value for you, right? I'm solving a problem for you. And that could be something so simple or it could be something big, but I think it's about listening and making sure you understand what the person needs that you're selling and figuring out how to set it in there.
And even though, the words matter, which we chill to customers. Second thing, the bunch of discounts probably. Next thing, the way we treat, the way we treat to get things done. Yeah.
You absolutely nailed it. That's exactly what it's about. It's about your mindset, your approach. Yes, that is perfect.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Shannon. It was pretty quick, firing conversation, and I guess that's it from my side. And thank you so much for getting into the show and sharing a bunch of these insights. I would love that. Like, I love that conversation we have had regarding the sales and technology. Yep.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Cheers.